Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the technical update briefing on Power Platform and Dynamics 365 for June 2021. This update will include top-of-mind information for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. Some of the topics that we will be covering are information about Microsoft events, just BizApps, Ignite, Build, and so on. We'll also cover Dynamics 365 key product updates, preview features, what's new, what's coming. We will also share some developer updates and also some information about the latest deprecations for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And we will also cover updates on Dynamics 365 on-premises and more. Questions will be taken via chat during the webcast, and we will answer as many as possible as we progress. Please feel free to post your questions at any time during the session, and we will answer it as we go. The deck we are using for the session will be available in the blog for download, and you can use that to visit the links that we are discussing here. It should be there in our blogs already. Feel free to download it anytime. Also, this time we have an optional survey for you to complete at the end of this session. It has only 4 or 5 questions depending on what option you choose, and will literally take less than 5 minutes to complete. The survey provides us with insights into what you think of the session, or what you thought of the session, so we can continue to provide relevant information during this update briefings moving forward and make these update briefings worth your time. The survey is completely anonymous, and we don't capture any personal information in the survey. We'd be deeply grateful if you could complete the survey at the end of this session. I'm going to share the link where you can download the blog as well as the deck as well as the survey in just a second. With that, let's get started. Next slide, please. So this session is hosted by 4 of us. On the customer engagement app side, we have Ryan Anderson, Senior Customer Engineer for Power Platform and Dynamics 365, who will be doing presenting the content. And myself, Madan Sampath, Senior Customer Engineer for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I'll be the moderator. So I'll be answering questions on the chat while Ryan continues to present the content. Tom?
Thanks, Madan. And my name is Tom Stumpf. I'm a Senior Customer Engineer working with the Finance and Operations apps. Happy to be here today, and happy to also introduce Brent Sokolowski, Senior Customer Engineer also for Finance and Operations apps. He'll be our presenter today on those topics, and I'll be answering questions via chat as well. So let's get started. We'll switch over to Ryan.
All right, thanks, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Let's jump into our featured news to get started. First off, just wanted to mention all of our great on-demand events around Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. So I think in past updates, we've probably mentioned all these different events, but just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that all the on-demand content from these events is still available. So Microsoft Build and Microsoft Ignite, obviously those cover across multiple technologies, but there's definitely some information out there in the BizApps world and Dynamics and Power Platform content. So take a look at those, and then the Microsoft Business Application Summit specifically focuses on BizApps, Dynamics 365, and Power Platform. So make sure to take a look at those. All great, free on-demand content for you to review. So let's jump into customer engagement app specific topics. The first one here is around some of the features enabled in the 2021 release Wave 1. So I won't go into a lot of detail on the specific features here, but we just wanted to call this out again. This is something that is released with each release wave. and you can jump into whatever app you're using or whatever technology you're using here, whether it be straight up Power Apps, or if you're using, you know, a Dynamics 365 app. And for each one of these, there's a great list of features that's available within each release wave. And now that release wave itself covers a longer period of time. Like release wave 1 would cover, you know, April to September. So you may see some of those topics in there that that are going to be released during that time frame, or maybe going to go into a preview during that time frame. And so you can see there in the screenshot how each one of those topics is listed as far as when it's going to be public preview, when it's going to be early access, and then when it's going to be generally available. So it's like some of these things here, you know, the April 1st is when wave 1 was generally available. So some of the things are going to land there. You know, other things may land in different months throughout that wave 1 release. So it could be July, it could be, you know, August, those kind of things. The other thing that you'll see here is how each one of those things is implemented. So sometimes it might be that, you know, an administrator may need to turn something on for a certain feature to start working. Other things may just get turned on automatically at different times within the release. Some of those things might be for users, some things might be for admins. So all that information is in the release wave 1 notes. And so it's great to review all of those. If there's a specific topic you're looking for, you can find that. Otherwise, you can just kind of get an idea of when those things are going to be coming and you know, what each one of those relate to. So jump to the next slide, Fusion development. So one of the things that we've announced here lately is the focus on Fusion development, basically bringing together professional developers with citizen or low code type developers and IT professionals to help build better applications faster. So there's some great content out there around this. There's a new ebook that's available. There are developer plans for Power Apps. There's also a developer plan just for Power Platform. And then there's a Fusion development learning path that you can take a look at. So all those things to help you get more comfortable with that Fusion development. And there's also new features that are coming within the wave 1 release here in 2021 that support the Fusion development as well. So a lot of these things coming in preview here in June. Some things like command line interface support for source code files and packaging, new visual code extensions for Power Apps portals development. You can add custom code to custom connectors. There's a new independent publisher connector certification. So all these new features basically mean that developers can easily participate in Fusion teams while staying in their development tools of choice. So you know, take a look at all that information that's available, and take a look at those new features that are coming to help support Fusion development. Next topic is on the Power App side. This is around introducing custom pages and the modern app designer. So, so right now, you know, there's Canvas apps, there's model-driven apps. You know, how do you bring those together? So a couple new significant capabilities that are going to help with that. The first is custom pages. So with this, you can craft those pixel perfect UX apps with Canvas apps and connect over 400 different data sources. You can leverage Power FX, and then you can embed those within model-driven apps, right? So that's what we're referring to as custom pages. So after you do that, the result is a ready for enterprise type app that can fluidly combine grids and forms over Microsoft Dataverse with completely tailored custom screens. And then to help support that, there's now the modern app designer, where makers can build those unified experiences with that new modern app designer. So assembling a fully responsive application backed by Dataverse, that just takes a few clicks, and you can drop in robust declaratively generated grids and forms simply by selecting a table. And you can preview the running app live in the designer and craft custom pages right there in line. So the modern model-driven app designer is in preview now. The custom pages, the early access for that are coming in June. So take a look at those things and start building those custom pages. All right, next up is introducing a new way to manage and enforce licensing for partners. And so we're pleased to announce the public preview of a new capability called third-party app license management. And this enables our partners to manage and enforce licenses for their products using the same systems and technologies that Microsoft uses. So licenses license assignment is through Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So admins can enable and assign licenses for partner products within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. License enforcement is built into the platform. The Power Platform will enforce partner product licenses at runtime and to ensure that only licensed users can access a partner solution. And then analytics and insights for partners. So in the Partner Center, partners will be able to view aggregated reports of the types and quantities of licenses their customers own and whether those licenses have been assigned. And so for this, the public preview on this one is now available, so partners can give this a try. There's a good webinar out there that kind of goes over this end to end. So for partners, take a look at that. And then there's also a step-by-step walkthrough guide that partners can take a look at. All right, the next topic is specifically around Microsoft Dynamics 365 marketing and customer journey orchestration preview, which is now available. So marketing helps customers elevate their customer experience game across every department of the company. And this is with AI assistance. Business users can build event-based journeys that reach customers across multiple touch points, growing relationships from prospects through sales and support. So in May, the real-time customer journey orchestration feature went into preview. And so that feature provides a set of new features such as engaging customers in real time, which allows you to win customers and earn loyalty faster. There's personalizing experiences with AI, and then growing with that unified and adaptable platform. So all that's available now within marketing for that the real-time customer journey orchestration. So if you're already using marketing, take a look at that. Adds quite a few new features there. And then next up, we wanted to, again, to kind of go through some of the deprecations to make sure that people are aware of the things that are either deprecated or going out of support or going to stop working soon. So there's a great article there's a link to in the slide that goes through the entire set of deprecations. So we just picked a few that are kind of top of mind here, or that some of our customers maybe have run into or impactful. That first one is around there's attachment management add-on for Dynamics 365, and that's deprecated here in June. There is, if you're using that, there is an ability to opt in to move those files that are currently were managed by that add-in, and you can get those moved to the more out-of-the-box storage. So there's information there on how to do that if you're using that attachment management add-on. The second one is around Skype for Business integration with customer engagement apps. That's deprecated as of July. And so it'll be no longer supported after July 31st of 2021. So this is using Skype for Business within Dynamics, where you can see the presence of certain people within Dynamics. And for that one, if you're still using Skype for Business and want that capability, the guidance there is to transition over to Microsoft Teams. The third one is IE11 support. We've been talking about this one for a while now, but the support that's deprecated in IE11 won't be supported for Dynamics 365 or Power Platform products after August of this year. And so we recommend transitioning to a modern browser such as Microsoft Edge for that. Next one is the Analyze section, and this is in the mobile offline profiles, and that is deprecated. And the reason that's deprecated is it's being removed due to some cross-site scripts vulnerabilities. That report was used to identify components that aren't available when you're working in offline mode. And those capabilities will be reimagined as part of the ongoing enhancements for mobile offline, but that one will be deprecated as well. Low density headers in model-driven apps won't be supported after release wave 2, so that's October of this year. So we recommend using the high density headers there. And then lastly, some client APIs will be deprecated in April of 2022. So that would be basically release wave 1 of 2022. Things like the client global context.js.aspx API will be deprecated then. So there'll be more information coming on those. So those are just some of the deprecations happening. Again, recommend kind of keeping watch of that deprecations article. It's updated fairly often. All right, Brent, I'll kick it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. And next slide, please. So what I'd like to cover a little bit today to start with is some of the features that are available within finance and operations that you may or may not be aware of. The first one I want to bring to your attention is a couple of UI features. One of them is Save Views and also the new grid controls. The Save Views and grid controls are both features that have been around for a little while, but they are something that you need to enable through feature management. So it may be something that you're not aware of because it's not there by default. The Save Views are something that can be published to users in specific security roles and specific legal entities. Therefore, any user who has that specific role or access to that specific legal entity can access those views. So you don't have to have permission to personalize to get these. So that opens up some added capability beyond the default personalization that was always there within the different forms. Next slide, please. So the out of the box, what we've, like I say, this has been around for a while, but some of the new out-of-the-box standard views or the Save Views that are available are now for inventory and logistics, production, and the planned order areas. Each of these views includes only some of the fields that are used most often. Therefore, we're providing a quicker overview and trying to streamline that whole process. For example, in the screenshot here, you can see this is the on-hand view. And from the drop down, you can see there's the standard view, but then there's also different out-of-the-box views for if you're concerned mainly with financials or if you're looking at receiving or shipping, you can toggle between those two to change the view that you see within that grid form. Traditional personalizations let the users have one set of personalizations per page. The Save Views feature expands that in several ways. It allows users to have multiple named sets of personalizations for forms so they can quickly switch between those without changing or moving out of that form. They can also have user-added filters and sorts, which allows users to quickly return to the commonly filtered data sets. And these views can also be added to tiles, lists, and links, so you can expand that functionality beyond what you have directly in out-of-the-box features. Some of the grid capabilities that are available that you may or may not be aware of that expand the power that you have within the different grid forms within the interface. Some of these that you can do, some things you can do in here is you can calculate totals. So if you're looking at a list page for, let's say, the inventory on hand and you want to get a total per site, you can right click and you can calculate totals from within there. There is also typing ahead capability. So if you're in maybe a transaction form and you're trying to do a calculation, you can type that calculation and move to the next field while that calculation isn't occurring, so you don't have to wait for it to finish. You can also evaluate math expressions. So for instance, if you're creating a inventory movement journal and you get to the quantity field, and instead of typing in 24, you want to do a calculation, maybe 6 times 4, you can type that in and it'll do that calculation for you on the fly. You can also group tabular data, and you can also freeze columns. So this expands that capability where a lot of this, where you used to have to export it to Excel to get that capability, now you can do it right within the grid. Next slide, please. Another new feature that we'd like to make you aware of is the ability to secure within Dynamics Finance and Operations using Azure Active Directory security groups. So this allows you to, just like it sounds, have an Active Directory group with users associated with it, and then you can import that group within D365, and any users that are part of that group would inherit or inherit the roles and privileges that were assigned to that specific group. This feature is not on by default. You have to enable it. At a high level, how you would enable this is you would go into Lifecycle Services, enable maintenance mode, and then in system administration within D365, you go to license configuration, as you can see in the screenshot, and here you would activate directory security group. Once that is complete, then you can go to system administration, users, and groups, and you can import an Active Directory group. Instead of having to do each individual user, now you could have the groups, you could have the users assigned to those groups, and those users would then inherit that security that was defined on that group. Next slide, please. There is a new feature that became generally available on April 1st that enables change management on existing products. So engineering change management uses multiple versions to track changes in products as they go throughout the life cycle. Companies can now convert a standard product to an engineering product after it's been set up. So this would allow you, if you set up a standard project or a standard product and you identified at when you created that, now if you decide later on that you want that to be an engineering product, there's a wizard that we can walk through that you can make that conversion. In the past, if once that was set, there was no changing it, but we move forward with that where you can change that if you so desire down the road. And can I be advance that for me, Ryan, please? The last feature I'll make you aware of is the automatic retry for batch jobs. So in a cloud application, there is a chance for interruption while you're processing a batch job. This, especially if maybe you have a longer batch job and something occurs during that process. Currently, before this feature, if you had something where there was a connection loss, batch jobs that were running were terminated and they needed to be restarted with manual intervention. With the release of 10.0.18, we introduce a retriable flag on all batch jobs. This will then automatically try to retry that batch job and without manual intervention. And this is full extensible property, so you can set this on any custom batch jobs that you create also. And next we'll move on to product updates. And within that, one thing we want to first mention is at any time our release plans, and Ryan had talked about this a little bit earlier too, our release plans are available in advance of a planned release. So you can always go visit these release plans to learn about any upcoming features that will be available. Along with these release plans, the release schedule shows the deployment timelines and plans for that release. So if you're looking for something in particular, you can see when the general availability will be, when public preview, so you can plan accordingly. So we encourage you to always check these periodically to keep informed of anything new that's coming down the road, so that you can get that in place. And then you can also, a lot of times there will be an early access to that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit further along where we get into our PEAP program, and you can start to look at those features before they come generally available. And also, go back to Ryan, and he'll talk about some of the customer engagement apps.
All right, thanks, Brent. So let's talk a little more about the about some of the updates. Service updates for Dynamics 365 customer engagement environments are the ones that are continuously delivered to those environments. So these are typically on a weekly basis. There's a good article that keeps track of this. That article, I believe, is updated every Tuesday, and that indicates, you know, the current version of each region, and then what the next version is, and the timing of those. So those service updates that they're kind of done weekly, that's a little bit separate from the release wave deployments. Like we mentioned, those release waves happen, you know, twice a year. The service updates are something that are continuously deployed, typically weekly, although that can change a little bit. And so you can look at that article to see what the latest service update versions are, and you can see which, you know, if you're in the North America region, you can see which version is currently applied to those environments, and then what the next version is. You can click into it and see, you know, what updates or, you know, fixes are in those service updates. Then you can also see what, you know, your version number is just through the UI and Dynamics, and just by going to that gear icon and then clicking on About, and that should match up for, you know, what's out there on that article. On the on-prem side, so we did release version 9.1 for on-prem, so Dynamics 365 Server Service Pack 1. So that is available out there. That is a cumulative update. So, you know, if you apply that does include all the other version 9 updates. Typically, the version 9 updates are coming roughly monthly, and so you can kind of keep up to date on those on that article. For version 8.2, if you're on 8.2 for on-prem, there is service update 2.28. Version 8.2 is out of mainstream support, so there won't be you know, ongoing updates, you know, at least on the monthly basis anymore. I think that last one was in April. So anything, you know, there'll be no updates, no feature updates. If there are, you know, security issues or critical issues, those still could be coming, but don't expect the 8.2 updates as often. On the Power Apps portal side, again, there are updates here. There's kind of two for Power Apps portals. There's two different components of that. There's the portal website host, and that's updated automatically to those latest versions, and those are typically on a monthly basis. And then there's the portal solutions, and those are the ones that are updated by customers. So if a portal solution requires an update, those will be specified and the required customer action to do so. That'll come up in the Power Platform Admin Center. And there's instructions there on how to do that. We typically recommend that you update those solution packages during off-peak hours. In the latest versions, the 9.3.4.x and 9.3.6.x, those are in early upgrade phase. So you can opt in to early updates for your portal, and that's done through the Power Platform Admin Center as well. So, you know, typically if you have a test or dev environment, you can opt in on those, and then you can test out those versions prior to moving to production. Again, there's a good article that lists all the releases and updates, and, you know, Power Apps portals is part of those release wave plans as well. So there are some specific features that are in the release wave 1, either already in, or maybe they might be in public preview. A few of them are listed there, public preview in April and May, but those are all part of that release wave 1 as well, and you can get all that information in the same way. Okay, Power Automate desktop update. So there are updates for both May and June that are out there now, and you can download that to apply those updates. Some of the new features. I think that the May update provided updates on. You can now do update notifications are available in Power Automate desktop. Additional resources are available under the Help menu. You can now add a timeout parameter that's been added in the launch browser action. There was some localization work that's now been completed in Power Automate desktop. And then lastly, the ability to run desktop flows from another desktop flow. And I think that was in the June update. So those are just a few of the features that are in the May and June updates. You can take a look there to see what else is available. All right, Brent, back over to you for some of the finance and ops.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. On the finance and operations side, the version 10.0.19 is the most recent generally available update that you can apply to your production environments. The 10.0.20 will be generally available in July. That version, that 10.0.20, is also available via our PEAP program for testing, which is our preview early access program. The other chart you can see here, and this is within our online guides to the timelines for here. You can view those at any time, but those are the most recent ones that you'd be dealing with at this point. With regards to the PEAP program, next slide, please. This is what I was referring to as our preview early access program. And if you're not familiar with that, that's a way for partners, customers, and ISVs to access the public preview builds for testing purposes. You can also participate in discussions on our Yammer group. And this is also a channel to provide feedback to the R&D teams for that particular build. So if you find something, you can provide that back, and then they can take that under consideration depending on what you find. It's a recommendation. That's always a good idea to have an environment where you apply the PEAP build so that you can stay current on any upcoming bug fixes and to test any new features. It's important to note that this is for development and test cloud deployments only. These PEAP builds can't be used in a production environment, but they're great because you can get early access to this. You can, especially if you're waiting for a feature or you're waiting for a bug fix, you can get this in early and make sure it does what you're looking for. If you are interested in this program, you can sign up for the Insider program, and there's a link in the deck that will be available to you. And then you can also fill out the PEAP survey there. If you are approved for that program, then you'll be added to the private Yammer group, and you will receive an invite to the PEAP asset project within Lifecycle Services. The importance of that is if you want to get the latest package, once you have access to that PEAP LCS project, you could open that up and navigate to the asset library. From there, you can select software deployable packages like you see in the screenshot, and you'll see the different available packages. And you can see here the latest is that PEAP program version 10.0.20 that you could then from there mark to save to my library. Once you have it saved to your library, then you can take and move over to your LCS project where you want to apply this. You can go to your asset library and you can import that PEAP package. So once it's there, then you can apply that to that environment just like you would apply any other update. And that's this is also outlined on the blog article. The hyperlink is within this slide deck that walks you through step by step of how to do that. Next, we'll talk about deprecations within finance and operations. There are a few noteworthy ones that we want to make you aware of. One of them is the same on the CE side, but Internet Explorer 11 support for that will end in August. So we want to make sure you're making plans to move forward with another browser, preferably Microsoft Edge. Visual Studio 2015 is being no longer supported after version 10.0.17, so plan accordingly for that. The globalization portal in Lifecycle Services, it's being planned for removal on May 2022, but that'll be replaced by the LCS issue search and the Dynamics Regulatory Alert Submission Service. On the supply chain side, the job card device is going to be replaced by a new production floor execution interface. And the warehousing app is being replaced also by a warehousing management mobile app, which will have a new look and feel and some added functionality. On the commerce side, the commerce scheduler parameters, the full dataset generation interval in days field is being deprecated as of version 10.0.17. That field will no longer be visible and the default value will be 0 on that. So if you have anything that is utilizing that field, just make sure you plan accordingly. And with that, I will we'll move on to our tech tips and back to Ryan.
All right, thanks, Brent. Yeah, so a few tech tips. The first one here is around Power Apps and adding your Canvas apps to Microsoft Teams. So a while back, we did introduce the Add to Teams command. We've simplified the experience to make it easier to add your existing Canvas apps to Microsoft Teams. And then new interface adds a new Add to Teams button along with the Download App button in that side panel. So the Download App button allows you to download the app manifest, which can then be uploaded to Teams for personal or team use, and can be submitted to Teams, the Teams tenant for broader distribution. The Add to Teams button will just, well, it eliminates the need to download and it uploads the app for personal or team use. So clicking that button will take you directly to the app installation dialog from within Teams. So just making it easier for you to get those Canvas apps over to Teams for usage. Next up on the Power Automate side, so this is automating document workflows with Power Automate and Adobe. So Adobe has offered some integrations to help with that document automation. The first one is Adobe Sign connector, and so you can take your documents, Word, PDF, PowerPoint, and route them for electronic signature from within Power Automate. Another one is the Adobe PDF Tools connector, and so you can convert your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or whatever documents in other formats automatically into PDF from within Power Automate. And then coming soon will be the Adobe Document Generation API, so you can dynamically generate documents based on JSON data from within Power Automate. So some nice new functionality there around working with PDFs and doing those electronic signatures with Adobe from within Power Automate. Another update on the Dataverse side, some increased alternate key limits. So we've increased the number of alternate keys that can be used in a table in Dataverse. Alternate keys were also previously known as entity keys, but you can use these as a lookup to locate records. It's basically a way to give another unique key or column to a table for the records there to make them easier to look up, to provide better performance when you're doing that. And previously, the limit was 5, I believe, on these alternate keys, and that's been changed to 10. So there was some requests to increase those limits. to help address more complicated scenarios, and now that limit is 10 per table. That change should be implemented everywhere and is immediately available for all the online Dataverse organizations. No actions needed from users to implement that or make that active. Okay, Brent, back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. And on the finance and operations side, there's a few we'd like to make you aware of. One of them, the first one, is if you are using a Microsoft hosted build pipeline, there is now a new NuGet package. So starting with version 10.0.18, the application suite package has been split into 2 packages. So there's an additional one you would want to download. Once you download those 4 NuGet package from the asset library, you would add a reference to the new NuGet package in your packages.config file. From there, update the MS build arguments in your build pipeline. So a little bit of a change if you're using those hosted build pipelines. For any self-hosted VM-based build pipelines, these are not affected by this change. Next slide, please. We'd like to make you aware of a blog article on the AX in the Field blog that was created by Jason Larson recently that goes through utilizing business events with an Azure function with the HTTPS endpoint. So business events are a mechanism that lets external systems receive notifications from finance and operations applications. So when something occurs, that gets triggered, and it can external areas can subscribe to that. So they then, based off of that alert, you could then perform some kind of business action based off of that. So business events can deliver messages to several endpoints, one of them being HTTPS. Some of the other options include like Azure Service Bus Queue, a Service Bus Topic, or an event grid. With this article, Jason goes through using that HTTPS endpoint, and then from there, having an Azure function that would receive that alert and then do some sort of action based off of that. So for instance, if you had a business alert that was maybe triggered off of a vendor being created, this HTTPS endpoint could then trigger a Azure function to perform maybe the creation of a possibly a vendor address or something based off of that. There's a wide variety of use cases for this, but this goes through the basics of how you would set that up and how you would utilize that. So we encourage you to check out the blog article if this is something that you are interested in. Next slide, please. Samuel also has a blog article out on our blog site that goes through some of the changes that are coming for our on-premise environments. And the one we want to showcase here is that with PU41, you can now set up SSRS nodes in high availability configuration. So back with PU36, you had the possibility of batch only or interactive only AOS nodes. Now with PU41, you can expand this to the SSRS nodes. So this blog article goes through the configuration that you will need in order to utilize that functionality. And now we'll switch over to our learning quarter with Ryan again.
All right, great. So first up is an article around Dataverse and attempting to demystify the Dataverse and using the Power Platform's advanced data backend for all your apps. So the article goes through, it has a good demo around Dataverse and kind of shows how it applies to both low-code developers and how low-code developers are getting access to Dataverse for teams through Microsoft 365 and building out those solutions. And then, but that's also how it applies to pro developers and want to learn how those features, how they can, speed up their development process, make things go faster and then kind of work again with the low-code developers and kind of back to that Fusion development process. So take a look at that article, that discussion on everything from building the low-code Power Apps with Dataverse for Teams, to defining business rules, to creating search-powered chatbots with Power Virtual Agents, to a tour of pro dev capabilities in Dataverse. So lots of good information there on Dataverse and how it can be used in a wide range of circumstances. The next one is around mixed reality and Dynamics 365 Remote Assist. So lots of great usages here as far as reducing waste and a lean management perspective. There's a good Q&A there with one of the program managers on that topic. Some of those topics covered are around improving collaboration with field technicians, which can be things like even improving work-life balance and sustainability and carbon negative goals. There's the critical environments, reducing costs, improving learning, increased efficiency, increased safety for employees, and reducing machine downtime, minimizing risk of downtime with proactive remote audits and inspections, enabling real-time 3D annotation supported collaboration among team members, and then improving client-facing interactions. So lots of good information there. You can read the full Microsoft Data Center story, which is around Remote Assist and using HoloLens 2. So take a look at that. Some really cool technology there and ways to improve your business. Okay, the next one is around an on-prem migration, and so some resources here. If you're currently using Dynamics 365 on-premise and you're trying to look to how to get to the cloud, we have some great resources on how to do that. There's lots of different reasons on why you'd want to shift from on-prem to cloud. However, not every environment is ready to do that quite yet. So there's some resources here that can help identify the on-prem to online methods, and can help you to understand where your risks and complications might be in that path. So check out that blog. There's information there which includes the standard migration assessment that actually some of us on this call even deliver, where we can help to take a look at your on-prem environment and then put together some recommendations on how that can move to the online space, and maybe, like I said, areas of complexity or risk, that kind of thing. So just might help you get a better idea of what that migration to the cloud may look like for your Dynamics 365 environment. There's a migration community, and there's a link there in the slide to take a look at that, so you can connect with other experts and migration partners and even other customers to try to get some of those questions answered. So lots of good information out there to take a look at if you're looking at moving from on-prem to online. All right, the next one is around, this was a blog article on our team blog around supporting and extending the Return to Workplace solution app. So if you're not familiar with that, the Return to Work app is a solution provided by Microsoft, and that empowers employees to help return confidently to work with some self-service tools. So this article specifically is around how to support and extend that. This article is written by one of our colleagues, Ali Yousefi, and in fact, Ali and I did a podcast on this topic as well, where we talked through this article and his experience with supporting and extending that Return to Workplace app. So if you're already using it, it's a great resource to on how to best extend and support that. And if you're not familiar with it, you can get some more basic information as well. Okay, another a blog article that is on our team blog. This is specifically around Dynamics 365 Remote Assist and how that can help in our current workplace and situations. So take a look at that on some key benefits of using Remote Assist on in that blog post. And then finally, we've talked a little bit about the Fusion development already. This is just a good list of kind of curated content around Fusion development readiness. And so lots of good links here on how to bring together that kind of pro dev experience with also the citizen developer and low code type experiences. So if you're looking at getting kind of ramped up on what Fusion development means and getting in readiness there, there's a great list of links here to help you with that. All right, Brent, back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. On the finance and operations side, we want to make you aware of a few Fast Track Tech Talk series that are available. These are great sessions that go through a variety of topics. They are recorded, so you can go back and look at previous ones, and you can also see what's upcoming. A couple we want to showcase today is one is around the e-commerce, being that's very new and a lot of interest in that. There is a series that covers topics such as architecture, deployment, and serviceability, the site creation, theming, payment handling, and extensibility. It also covers topics such as cross-channel services such as AI-driven recommendations. In that series, there is a new one as of June 4th. This one you will learn about the new store commerce point of sale application and how it is replacing the retail modern point of sale in the future, and that when it has full functionality parity to the MPOS version that we have now. So a great series. Recommend going out and taking a look at that. There is also a series out there on our onboarding procedure that talks through the step-by-step process for onboarding to finance and operations apps, and it kind of lets you experience that end-to-end process that occurs when we're onboarding into D365. And with that, I'll bring it back to Tom, who will give you some final thoughts, final information around this, everything today, and we'll wrap it up from there. And thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks, Brent. And that's the end of our presentation for today. I'd like to thank our presenters, both Ryan and Brent, and everyone else for joining the webcast here. As a reminder, the slides have been posted to both the customer engagement and the finance and operations and the field blogs, and that's for you to reference by download. You can follow us on Twitter, as you can see on the slide there, at PFE Dynamics. And also, if you haven't had a chance to fill out the survey, we would really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to do that. We value your input, and that helps us provide the most relevant content for you in this update each month. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day.